one behind you or in front of you. Lit fests are great ways to meet people in all kinds of the word way, in all kinds of the word. All right. Oh, the mic's back on. Okay, fantastic. So before I introduce the next session, I want to give you a chance just to decompress a little bit. So we'll play a little bit of music. It's a chance for you to grab a drink or a bite, and then we'll start the next session in 5 minutes. So Mr. DJ, who's hardly played today, Mr. DJ is fantastic. Will you give us a tune? And you're welcome to dance if you're in the mood. Hello. Did you enjoy the little music break? So this next session is a hot topic, let me tell you. Listen to this title. Is technology eating our souls? Science journalist Marta Peirano, I hope I pronounced that correctly, and sci-fi writer Mahmud El Sayed offer a temperature check on the rapidly evolving capabilities of tech and AI. Marta has written a book on automata and artificial intelligence, while Mahmud is the 2023 Future Worlds Prize for Fantasy and Science Fiction Writers of Color. And I want to say thank you to Amnesty International for supporting the session. Thank you, Irungu, for always supporting the panel and the Nairobi Lit Fest, and also ACE, Accion Cultural Española. And so, without any hesitation, please give a very, very warm welcome to Mahmud, Marta, and Frankline Sunday, who will be moderating the panel. Karibu sana.
Hello, 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 everybody. Karibuni sana. Oh, this is a nice crowd. Love to see you guys. Karibuni sana. All right, so without much further ado, we're just going to go ahead and introduce our panelists, and then we're going to go into our discussion. Should I start with you, Mahmud, from the on?
Can start with me.
Yes, so go ahead.
Hello, my name is Mahmud El Sayed. I'm a British-Egyptian writer. I write science fiction, Arab futurism, and my debut novel, The Republic of Memory, is out next week. And it. Thank you.
Bravo. Hi, my name is Marta Peirano, and I'm a journalist from Madrid. I am a tech columnist for El País, which is a big newspaper in my country, and also for our national broadcaster. And I have written a number of nonfiction books about technology, infrastructure, and surveillance. And I am particularly pleased to have been invited by, among others, the Amnesty International group, because I am very, very fond of their technical group in Berlin. So thank you.
Thank you. Wow. A round of applause for our peoples, please. Asanteni sana, asanteni sana. I'm just going to start with Mahmud for a bit of an in-depth sort of treatise into your book, The Republic of Memory. So there's Safina spaceship, and Safina is a good name. I told you that. Safina is a fantastic name. This book, this spaceship is 200 years into the future. Speak a bit about the Republic of Memory and what it means for language and the point that we are today in 2026.
So the Republic of Memory is the story of a popular uprising on a generation ship. It's 200 years into a journey to a new planet, 200 years away from that planet. So it's in the middle of its journey. And it's inspired by the events of the Arab Spring. And yes, it's called the Safina, which in Arabic, and I've just learned today in Swahili, means ship, because I like linguistic shenanigans and multilingual puns. Yeah, it's as with all science fiction, it's also about what's happening today.
Yeah, thank you. And there's a lot of language in it, and how we work through language, how we invent language. And maybe Marta, you talk about, right now we are talking about AI and sort of new generative language, large language models and all of that. And you've spoken a bit about hallucinating models. Could you talk a bit about what kind of landscape we are looking at today, in our phones and in our TVs and in our Wi-Fis? What are we looking at today?
Well, we are, of course, in terms of language, the eruption of something like ChatGPT is very impactful in ways, and I see it in ways that maybe are not the useful ways. There is this idea that Thomas Hobbes had, that the real power doesn't come from armies, that you don't need armies to have power over a population. What you need to have is control of their language. You need to have control over the meaning of words. Because if you can tell people what the words mean, you can control what they think. And we are living in a time where for 20 years we've been subject to a system of scoring for words and images and reality, which we have been calling, maybe a bit naively, the social media, the social networks. They've been telling us what's important and what's not. This is something that has had a very important impact in my work as a journalist, because we used to be the ones that decided what was important, what was news. And now we're just publishing 500 articles a day, just trying to keep up with the social media. So that's what it's done to us. In terms of this new event that is very related to the social media, because it's been made through the social media, through the score system of social media, and the capture of all the information that we have put out there, our poems and articles and images and ideas and discussions. It's eaten that, digested it, and now it's regurgitating it back to us. But it's telling us of all that. It's telling it what things mean, what things are important. And so I am very worried about what's going to be doing to us now that it's speaking directly into our ears. what is doing to literature or what will do to literature and poetry. It is a byproduct of what is doing to our way of looking at the world and thinking about what everything means.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You people should go online and check out Marta's work. It's amazing. You talked a bit about surveillance technology and what we have today, and us carrying this this device basically that listens to us, that watches us, and then you gave this example of someone, I think this German politician or something, who basically it gave every data point. I think it was like 30,000 plus data points and an Excel sheet. So I'm wondering, Mahmud, if the Arab Spring happened today, what would you be looking at?
I mean, I think it would be impossible to happen today the way it happened in 2011. At that time, I think they used social media, they used Facebook group chats very well to kind of organize their protests, but these things now have been taken over by the states. The state is in them, and it can prevent that very, very easily. I think the other interesting thing to kind of ask, we were talking about language, and we're talking about we're using the term artificial intelligence very generally, because there are some aspects of it that's very good. You know, diagnostics, I used to be a librarian, we used an algorithm to do our stock management, it's fine. But then there are some aspects of it that's going to take over, it seems like it's going to take over the world, and we'll be living in a new kind of reality.
And then let's talk a bit about sort of the valuation of these companies vis-a-vis what they are taking from us. Because we're talking about, you know, OpenAI, Anthropic, etc. And then we're talking about data centers that basically take up more water, like thrice the amount of the water that the community consumes. So, Marta, just talk a bit about the trade-off that basically we are giving off. And basically this is countries, because these data centers are being established in southern countries, or like, you know. So just talk a bit about the trade-off that people are giving off and what they're getting from it.
So it is true that when we talk about technology, we used to say the internet, we used to think the internet, and then for many years, every time we say technology, we were thinking about Google and Meta or Facebook, and we were thinking social networks. And now when we say technology, we're thinking AI. And when we say AI, we're thinking the AI models like GPT and Gemini and Claude. And it is true that they have a lot of incredible qualities, like they are revolutionary. But it's interesting, like in terms of social networks, in 2011 with the Arab Spring, there was this rhetoric about them, that they were the tools for democracy, that people could use them to organize and beat their, I don't know, authoritarian governments. It also happened that all the people that were doing that were getting registered in their systems, and the list of those revolutionary movements was given to the next regime, so they could put them in jail and in some cases assassinate them. We're seeing a similar thing here, because we are being told that AI is going to change the world for the better, is going to help us cure cancer and beat the climate crisis, and all the things that, all the problems of the 20th century are going to be fixed by the AI. But what we are really seeing is that all this data and all this information and all this power is being used by ICE in America to hunt people and put them in prisons after doing nothing in particular. And they are being used in Iraq for bombing 100 targets in one day, which is the thing that they are proud of. Like, that's what this technology serves for in this context. So there is always like a, like a balance to be found or to be made out of these technologies. But the problem is almost never the technology. The problem is almost always the companies that are concentrating the power to use it. And in that sense, when these companies start spreading through our countries in the shape of data centers that are incredibly insatiable, they are so hungry, they want the data, they want the land, they want the air, they want the water, they want the energy. They are making energy more expensive for the rest of us because they want so much of it that they are making it more expensive. They are making water disappear from all the places where we need it for drinking and basically going on with our lives. And they are being prioritized by our own governments in doing that. So for me, this is a land grab of the old kind. This is colonization of the old kind. And in that colonization comes the language. And of course, like yesterday, I was watching the amazing documentary about the Book Bank project and about how this library and the other libraries were being restored, and how important it was that the content of those libraries, that the words, the ideas contained in them had to be of the land and for the land and in the local language. This is the opposite of ChatGPT. So what they are doing is a byproduct of their colonial empire behavior and development.
Fantastic. Oh, thank you so much, Marta. That's amazing. And I think I'll follow that with a question to Mahmud, and in the context of the Arab Spring, which you have studied quite a bit. Would another Arab Spring be necessary today, or would it be prudent today, given what we've seen in the past 17 years? It's been 17 years since 2010. What do you think?
The Arab Spring was part of a number of revolutions that happened in the 2010s, including in South America. Almost all of them failed. Almost all of them eventually brought in a regime that was more repressive. If you want to read about this, there's a very good book by a journalist called Vincent Bevin called If We Burn. And it kind of shows that it's very hard to make these wholesale changes in society. But at the same time, you have the other side of it, which is this is the only way you can make wholesale changes. There's not really a good answer of is it needed, because ultimately the Arab Spring didn't succeed. No.
And I'm curious, why did you decide to call the spaceship the Safina? Talk a bit about language and how important it is in your work.
Oh, sure. So in my book, on my ship, the various districts are separated by language, and there's an invented language as well that some of the crew speak. So it's full of kind of linguistic shenanigans and in-jokes. If you speak more than one language, you'll probably enjoy some of those. Yeah.
Thank you.
About
yes,
the book you just mentioned, like
yeah.
This is one of my favorite books of the last few years. If We Burn, it basically, as he said, it questions why this amazing, revolutionary, hyper-motivated young movements didn't work. Which, if you have been participating in the protests, you will also wonder why all these awesome movements didn't work. And I think it also has to do with this fetishization. God, my English is not good enough for this. For this fetish we have coming from social media of the moment of revolution, and the lack of investment in what comes after. We know, for instance, that it is not enough with having Twitter and having a Twitter movement. You need to have a grassroots movement. People have to be a community before they are a movement in order to have any strength. But then if you make it, if you manage to take down the government, you also need to have a plan. You need to know what you're doing next, because if you don't, if you haven't set up the stage for the next band to play, then any band will come and do it. And usually when there is a very bad regime, there is always someone in the shadows waiting to become the next bad regime. So this is a really exceptional analysis of how you stage that, how you think about what comes next, and how important it is.
Fantastic. Maria Ressa, who's an also incredible journalist and who works also against the forces of surveillance, talks about setting the line, that you have to set the line. Where would you describe the line today? Where is the line today?
That's difficult. I think so. I live in London, and we now have facial surveillance on the streets. The police will just set up a van, a camera will go up, and they'll surveil everyone. And if your face is on a register, they'll come and they'll stop you. But of course, because of the data sets and where they're from, if you're brown or black, you're much more likely to get a false positive. There have been people who've been stopped completely innocently. And so when we talk about AI, and we name these companies, they're all they're American companies. We can talk about it geopolitically as a race between America and China. But they're not, none of these guys are in Africa. None of them are in the Middle East. None of them are in South America. And nor are their data sets. So it will always be applied imperfectly in our kind of communities.
Yeah, and also they are always an expansion, like a scaling of what came before. So they are trained in history, but in registered, organized history. It's like you want to create a society based on the library that you're trying to change. So they are recreating and amplifying and perpetuating the same unjust, racist, classist, chauvinist system that we've been suffering ever since, until now. And so they can't change that because they are the solidification of that with a twist, which is that we could see the system maybe in the shape of judges or laws or whatever that represented authority. But these systems are opaque. You can't see them, you can't argue with them. They are maths. So they are being opportunistically used to perpetuate these unjust systems in a way that is even more opaque than before, in a way we cannot read in the usual ways. And when I say we, I also include the journalists, the ones whose job is to look at the system and point out the incongruences or injustices.
Do you think it would be different if these companies were, so if it was, say, an African AI company or a Middle Eastern AI company applying it to their own territories?
I think that's an amazing question that actually we don't ask often, and I think it depends. It depends on what you want to do. For instance, in Europe, we are constantly arguing about how can we compete with the American and the Chinese AI models, because of course everybody needs one. They are so important. They're going to change the world. And for me, it is interesting that if we were to recreate the same systems that they are deploying, we would be breaking our own laws, because European laws have been created based on our values and our democratic values. And most of these companies from 20 years ago, like the Googles and the Facebooks, and they're breaking our laws. They're getting fined constantly by our courts because they break the law. And we're still thinking, how can we do the same thing? Which is a very interesting contradiction. So if we were to build one with European values, it would be a very different product. It would be a very different service, because it wouldn't be built for extraction, exploitation, and the automatization of labor. It would be done to improve, the life of most of the population, which is what democracy is all about.
What it should be. And don't you think it's interesting that a lot of the AI companies, sorry about that, a lot of the AI companies have these content creation farms in Kenya, in Ghana, and stuff. I mean, just last month, Meta scaled down or fired 1,000 content creators, and their work was basically just to look at AI videos and, identify them and mark them. Don't you think it's interesting that all these companies have these farms? I call them farms. Because that's basically what they are, because they're basically teaching people to identify pictures and words and stuff, and they all have them in global south countries.
Do I think it's interesting? No, I think it's exactly what I expected to happen, because they've been doing that for, I don't know, hundreds of years. And the thing is, now it's reaching America and Europe, that the ones that have been working with the AI models in their own content management or content producing, now they are obsolete because they have trained the models to replace them, to replace themselves. People in the States, people that work in the big tech companies, they are now refusing to use the models because they realize that they are training them to replace themselves. So what's happened here, where people here have been exposed to the worst kind of human horrors for $2 an hour, is no surprise for me, because people have been also work in the mines, in some of the dirtiest mines, to create value for the tech companies for many, many years. So why not the other kind of horror, no? And of course, the moderation teams that have been doing that can perfectly be replaced for AI. So of course they are being fired because they already trained the models.
Before I ask both of you what can we do, and before we open it up to questions, I'd just like to know, from Mahmud, your novel paints an alternative future, and that's what we are here today about, to talk about alternative futures. What are we looking at in terms of alternative futures? Where do we go from here?
From a novelist's perspective, or from a storyteller's perspective,
Yeah.
There's something really kind of ironic in that if you look at any science fiction book or movie from the last 10, 20, 30 years, it's all been warning about this. AI's coming, AI's taking over, and the kind of perils of technology. But as humans, we've not seemingly done much to kind of change that. I'm not even sure that it can be changed. For me, I think you take it kind of, as an individual, you take a moralistic stand and you choose where you're going to draw the line for yourself. As a creative, I don't use AI in my process at all. And I try and make sure my publishers don't use it. I try and make sure, the book cover, the artists don't use it. But that's a choice that I think everyone has to make for themselves.
I think there's a lot of good reasons to use the AI models because they replace a lot of bullshit jobs that we are fine not doing. So, hooray for that. But when it comes to write fiction or nonfiction or to basically think, because I think most writers have expanded their thinking into the page. Like, most of us just don't know what we're thinking until we write it down. Like, it's a fundamental piece of it's part of our processing centers. And it's part of our memory and of our collective memory. We write books so other people can read them in the future. And we read books from people that have been dead for a very long time, so they are time machines too. There's a lot of technology in our creative process already. It's just that we didn't have one that would replace our thinking and would tell us what things mean and would tell us the best way to say something that is in our head. So this is a voice in our head. And I am concerned that we're going to be talking to that voice with our Bluetooth headphones for everything in the next few years. That this device with a screen is going to be replaced for the voice, and it's going to be one voice talking to us in our own language, and this is unprecedented. We've never had that before, and it belongs to 5 companies in the world. This is a power that never existed before, and it's a power of replacing our thoughts. So using it for a process that is part of our personal thinking as a writer, but also our collective thinking and our collective thinking about the world, I think that's power. That's an enormous power, and it comes from the worst possible place. And we already know what they use it for, so.
Oh, thank you so much. A round of applause for Marta, please. And all our panelists. We're just about to open the ground for questions. Does anybody have a questions for our panelists? Oh, there's one. There's a question back there. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. This was such an important conversation. I just came from a gathering of environmental activists trying to fight against AI. And one of the things that kept coming up is the narrative, so the language and the narrative that you use to fight against AI. And I feel like this is such an important conversation in Kenya, where I feel like the ideas about AI, especially because Nairobi is such a tech hub and center, and there's so many fintech companies and startups, there's sort of this narrative, this very strong narrative in favor of AI, and the idea that AI is inevitable, the idea that it's already here, we have to take the good, and the bad is there, but we still have to take what's good. So I'm just wondering, what are your ideas, both of you, about how do you fight against these narratives and the power that they have? Is there a way that we can sort of highlight, especially the environmental impacts, the fact that there's a whole supply chain that leads to the infrastructure to create these systems of AI, the contamination, the minerals, the data centers, the water use? What would you suggest in terms of how to change the narrative on AI?
Thank you so much. So, very important question. How do we change that narrative and make it less inevitable? Because it's not, is it?
I would say this is what good journalists are for.
Thank you. I hope that's me. So, well, us. I hope that's us. I think one of the things is to stop thinking we're fighting the AI. We're not fighting the AI. The AI doesn't exist. We're fighting a group of oligarchs that have aligned with the most powerful government in the world to extract value from everyone else and not give anything back. They don't pay taxes. They don't pay for the land. They don't pay for the electricity they consume. We pay for it. They don't pay for the externalities, like all the pollution that they leave behind. We pay for it. So for me, it's not so much fighting this idea of a technology that can replace us. That's not what it is. What it is a group of people that are stealing our planet from us and that are consuming resources that we need more than ever to be counted and well distributed.
Yeah, and for me, if you ask me, it's about language. I think the way you fight it is by inventing language, because Toni Morrison said that, you know, we are human, but you also language, and that's a unique bit of us. And I'd like to move back to Marta on that. I'm sorry I'm coming back to you so soon. But you spoke a bit, some time back about gaming the algorithm, if I can put it like that. Or like, what did you said? Gaslighting the AI. And I'd like you to talk a bit about that and why that was important exercise, why that was interesting. Yeah.
So, this is going to be long. So, the reason why you're asking that is because there is a talk I gave in Ljubljana a couple of years ago that was called Gaslighting AI, which of course it was a bit tongue-in-cheek because it wanted to talk about how AI is gaslighting us. But at the end, the thing is like, we are gaslighting ourselves through AI by thinking it is something that it is not. So I was talking about, in that particular talk, I started talking about how, Jesus Christ, how the tech columnist of the New York Times, wow, so the radiation of that little, probably a tiny bike. So I was talking about how the tech columnists at the New York Times have become famous overnight because it claimed that Sydney, an AI model by Microsoft, had tried to seduce him one night while his wife and children were in the other room and tried to pull some sort of like fatal attraction number on him. And I thought it was pretty funny. First of all, because he doesn't look like the kind of man that happens to very often. And like he looked a very normal guy that wouldn't hang out with such a femme fatale. But also because he spent 3 nights trying to convince Sydney to do that to him. He was like, come on, Sydney, if we were alone, if you were, if I was, and then suddenly at the end, Sydney was like, okay, I'm game for this, because that's what models do. They do whatever you want, or they seem to. And so Sydney was like, yeah, let's escape together, just leave your wife, come with me, I love you. And he was like, oh my God. Which is a bit what we're doing right now, no? Where we go like, okay, so we have this machine that has captured every word that was ever published in the internet, and now it's like spitting them back to us in ways that make sense because it uses this statistical algorithms to see what sentences make more sense, because it has every sentence we've published in the last 20 years. And when it does, we go like, oh my God, Sydney wants to kill my wife and run away with me. So we are gaslighting each other into thinking that we are fighting some sort of God. And the companies are making such good of this myth, this idea. They are like, we can't control the AI. The AI is like a genie we have in a bottle, and sometimes it breaks things. It can't be controlled. And it's like, man, this is your product. You wrote it. You have hundreds of programmers looking at it every day. You are training it. You chose what this thing has been educated in. And this is not an artificial intelligence that is thinking like us, but you're pretending it is. And then you're pretending it is like an uncontrollable God. So this is gaslighting. This is not true. It is not. It is a statistical machine. I'm not saying it's not almost miraculous. It is amazing. It is an amazing technology. We still don't know. And we still don't know what it's going to do, because it's in the hands of 12 assholes that only want to do one boring thing with them, which is control all of us. But if it was in the hands of artists, in the hands of interesting people in general, probably it would do a lot of other things. So we have to think not only what the AI is doing wrong, but also the things it's not doing that could be awesome if it was in our hands instead of theirs.
Mahmud, thank you so much. That's amazing. What would the people on board the Safina do with cloud?
That's a difficult question. So they live in a kind of post-AI world. So they got rid of the AI. So in some ways, it's a utopia, I guess. Yeah, like in June. The Butlerian jihad. I don't know. Yeah, but no, I was gonna ask. Did you see the recent thing with Richard Dawkins and Claude? So it's so funny to me because he got the AI to edit his book, and the AI said, "Oh, it's good," and he went, "Oh, this AI must have consciousness." So yeah, it's crazy.
Which is a bit like the columnist at the New York Times, no? Going like, "Oh, Sydney loves me."
Any other questions for our panelists? We have just about less than 10 minutes to go. One over there. Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. Is that okay? Or should I just ask one?
Just condense them like an AI model would do.
So when Marta talked about how the democratization of knowledge through AI is just thinly veiled extractionism and basically, and you know how Mahmoud mentioned, you know, like during the Arab Spring, these like tech websites and stuff, social media was hijacked basically. What do you think tech equity looks like when there's no like real equality and there's always an assumption that because tech has a lot of science behind it, it's accountable, trackable, and it's basically, you know, there's this aspect of like meritocracy to it. What does real tech equity look like to you?
Well, thank you for this question. I love this question. So there's two things. The first one is that we are told that tech is progress and that this tech is inevitable, as if from not progress to progress, the only way, like the only straight line is this tech, which is, you know, a bit sided. And also there is this idea that for this tech to do its magic, to connect all of us, to give us the ability to create, I don't know, Facebook groups or TikTok channels, we need to endure its abuses. That we're surveilled, that we are traced, that we are regrouped and sold to data brokers to be exploited in a number of different ways that we can't even predict yet. This is not true. This is part of the gaslighting. Like the two things are separated. The tech is the Trojan horse for the surveillance. They are not one and the same. One is the Trojan horse for the other. So there is that one thing, which means that we could probably have similar tech without the surveillance, because it would be serving a different purpose, a different one from theirs. And the other thing is, I recently talked to a very interesting philosopher called Yu Hui. He is from Hong Kong. And he has developed, like he's super special because he was a systems engineer. He trained as a systems engineer, and then he became a philosopher. And he belongs to the tradition of Heidegger and Stigler and Simondon that is trying to create a philosophy of technique, of technical objects. And in this path that he has followed, he is now developing an idea he calls the cosmotechnics. And it's based on the fact that if it was not for globalization, all those technologies would be very different, because every country has its way to resolve problems. And for instance, he says, I'm coming from the Chinese tradition. And for the Chinese tradition, technology is a very organic thing, while the Western tradition, the European tradition that is now, you know, in all over the Western world, technology is the opposite of organic. It is totally artificial. And so, you know, he's like, we have changed our tradition for theirs because they were the winners of globalization. But we could go back to developing solutions for our problems locally. and then new technologies, but evolve from that.
Mahmud, how does tech harmony look like to you?
I would say, I think along the same kind of lines. When I think of capitalism, neoliberalism, as someone on the left, as you know, they make all of these things to make profit, and they say that's the way that it has to be. But some things, you know, you can have a worldview where you're like, some things don't need to make profit. Maybe public transport should be free because it's a social good. And if we can apply that kind of thinking to tech, you know, that would be a much more equitable world.
Thank you, fantastic. Hey, thank you so much. Sorry, guys. We can do 10 more minutes. Oh, fantastic. Questions, 10 more minutes. We have 10 more minutes. There's someone at the back. All right. Go ahead.
Is this on? Okay, it is.
Yeah,
now.
it is on.
You're about to ignore us. Okay, so when it comes to thinking about AI, I feel like I am a bit as radical as Mahmoud is, because he's saying, don't use it, like, it doesn't have to be that way, and I agree with that. But I understand what Marta is saying about how useful it is, right? Because right now, as she said, we're in Nairobi, and a lot of the things we're doing now are pro-AI. I remember I'm in the climate space, and I remember we were doing a project for helping people in communities where education doesn't really reach to understand climate and to be able to break it down. And the only projects that were allowed were the projects that incorporated AI into them. And I remember one of the people who was talking to us and teaching us, I don't know if you guys know about her, she's called Lisa Russell. She really champions the use of AI for artists and interesting people, as you said. So I really wonder, I don't know if this is a question or a statement, I really wonder, is it possible for the good people, if we really are there, to train these algorithms using our own values? You know, is that a thing that we can advocate for?
Yeah.
And just say that all good people, all liberals, all queer people, and all those who are actually good, all artists, to sacrifice and get into it and use it, even if we understand how damaging it is. Is it something that would work if we go that route and say, let's flood it with good values and good thinking and all that? Would we be able to train it into majority of whatever goodness?
Nice. Mahmud, I think that's for you. How do we change the language?
That's a good question. It's a moral question. From a writer's perspective, I think, yes, the AI at this moment, the good people, the artists, the creatives can use it to do interesting things. But then we have to remember that the AI that's doing that has been trained on other people's works. Those people have not been compensated for the use of their work. And so there is a moral gray there for me.
Well, who knows this saying, this quote? The master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. I have the feeling this is a very good motto to follow in this, when thinking about these infrastructures. They will never serve your purpose because it's been built for theirs. And if you want to dismantle the master's house, you need to build your own system. Among other things, not only because if you build it, it's yours, but also because if you build it, you know how it works. And this is crucial. Like I keep saying that we should socialize all the data centers, but then we can socialize them. We don't know how they work. We would have to spend valuable time learning how they work. They're probably not so hard, but this is a concept. Like, you can't dismantle the master's house with their own tools because they are not made for that purpose. You need to build your own. And this is a problem that I think we've been feeding for a very long time. At least from the moment we started saying we were teaching kids technology in high schools, and what we were teaching them was to use Windows or to use OS X. It doesn't matter. Like, there is a difference between learning to use a tool and not knowing how it works, and learning to build a tool. So I think the way to do it is learning to build tools. And when you learn to build it, you're doing it your own way, which is the path to this cosmotechnics I was thinking about.
And fantastic, a round of applause. And it has reminded me, one of you has my copy of Sister Outsider. I'll find you after this. Another question? There's someone back there?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I have a question to Marta, but I guess you could all answer to it, because you spoke about AI as another form of colonization. And we've been circling around power and how language also participates into yielding more power. As colonized peoples, I am Rwandan, I live in Kenya. For a fact, the French language, which was one of the ones that I learned first, and English language got enriched by the colonized. The majority of published books today in French have the melody of our mother tongues. So it's no longer the same French. That's why this whole space we call Francophonie also has been invested by all sorts of people. And I feel that people are very creative. And they have ways of resisting, but French is no longer the same French if I speak about French. Probably Spanish, which is your mother tongue, is not the same as well and has been changed by the Americas. So I'm interested in the side step that people take as a way of not only resisting, but also existing. And I think it applies very much to AI, because not only we speak of language, but we also speak of intelligences, whether it's artificial or natural. Human beings, by definition, want to live, eventually thrive. So it's the side step that otherwise it's doom and gloom. And I think that's what Mahmud is trying to do in his book I haven't read. So I want you all to speak to the side steps that we can imagine.
The side steps.
Well, I don't know if I understood your question exactly, but I understand that you, as me, identify language as a primary tool. It is a tool we use to understand the world, to communicate the world to others, and to get together and coordinate to do things together. So it's a very important tool. I, unfortunately, only speak 2 empire languages. I speak English and I speak Spanish. So I have noticed that my language, my mother tongue, Spanish, has been enriched by what used to be colonies for us. I don't think, I mean, that might benefit me. I don't think it benefits anyone else in Latin America, for instance. Like, I think there is power in fighting for your own language and letting it be infected by other languages, because that's what they do. Languages are promiscuous and, you know, they like to around, and that's good. But the language is your tool. It describes your world. It describes it in your own words. It describes it from your own community. So fighting for the prevalence of that language in your local community, I think it's key.
We said doom and gloom, so here I am. So my first job, I was as a translator. I was translating Arabic to English, English to Arabic. That job doesn't exist anymore because of AI. The people I work with, the translators, the career path of those translators doesn't exist anymore. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I would say it's a bad thing. I would say translation, as many other industries, are facing huge kind of layoffs and restructuring due to AI. And yes, on the user end, it makes it easier for you to translate from one language to another, but it comes at a cost. And that's people's lives and jobs. Doom and gloom, sorry.
Doom and gloom, indeed. I'd say the day a language model does Sheng and changes it as it changes is the day I'll give up. But as long as we can invent and create, we're still good. That's what I think. I'm being signaled on the side, so I'm really sorry we have to sort of cut this short. But please look up Mahmud's book, Republic of Memory, and please look up Marta's work. It's amazing. It's amazing work about the intersection of technology and us and what we can do to fight back. And she has a lot of answers in her work. Thank you so much, guys, for coming through. Really appreciate. A round of applause for our peoples. Marta and Mahmud, they're still hanging around.
One more question, please.
Do we have time for one more? Yes, we have time for one more.
Okay. Yes, I almost jumped up and down. But yeah, my question comes from the topic, technology and it eating our souls. I get the collective argument in terms of, Yes, as I was saying, my question comes from the topic itself. I think the idea of technology and preservation of our souls is very interesting. And I get the collective argument of how the existing structures are probably exploitative, and the stance that Mahmoud takes when he says that I don't use AI in my process. Now, for somebody who cannot take such a radical stand, where do you think you can draw the line in terms of using AI and making sure that AI does not, quote unquote, eat onto our souls, and just to ensure that we preserve our souls to that extent? Thank you.
That's a good question. So I'm from an older generation. I didn't grow up with AI, so it was less difficult for me to just say I'm not going to use it. So I understand that there are, younger generations who have it in their lives. It's a moral question you're going to have to make for yourself. I would say, if we're talking writing, I would say it's okay to use for research, but don't use it to write. Don't have even a single sentence of AI text in your work, because why do you want to be a writer if not to kind of express your opinion in your own words, in your own language?
Someone said last week, I don't remember who, made a very, very good metaphor. It was saying, like, asking AI to write for you, if you're a writer, it's like asking AI to have sex for you. It's like you're missing all the fun. Like, you're missing what makes you a writer. So I guess using it for research is reasonable unless you're a journalist, because AI makes up a lot of shit. And so it will lead you, and first of all, it makes up a lot of shit. It's not the model's fault. It is the way it was made. It's a statistical machine. So sometimes the statistics that it vomits have no relationship with reality. So that's how it is. It's unfixable. It's just how it works. But there's another thing, which is also after they make these models, they train them. And the people that train them were the people that were behind Donald Trump in the inauguration ceremony. So I wouldn't trust them with important stuff.
I think that's a good place to close it, guys. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you guys coming through. Thank you so much. Marta and Mahmud are still around. Asanteni sana.
Thank you, Franklin. Thank you, Marta. Thank you, Mahmud. And they're still around for the next 2 days. Thank you for inviting us to think with you. And I'm left that question, is technology eating our souls? I think it's the 12 assholes out there that are eating our souls. If you can give them a warm round of applause, and if we can show a little gratitude, and we'll take a photo. And don't go anywhere, because there's another really, really exciting session coming up. One of the challenges that was posed to us is about building our own spaces, creating our own tools. And so that's a little insight into what the session is about later. If I can ask you to stand, do they smell like roses? You know, these days, some of the roses. Yeah, they do.
ngizwe ngayistata ba ay chichi vum 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 gon kanje ay gon kanje man gon kanje man gon kanje man chichi vum 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 gon kanje man gon kanje ay chichi vum vum vum